So, building and user testing. This is the really exciting part where you're actually building your product. Well, user experience has a couple of phases here. As I mentioned in a previous module, user testing needs to happen, should happen, can happen before the build starts, where you're working with lower fidelity prototypes to figure out if your designs are going to work. But there's a role for user experience during the design phase. You probably have an opportunity to set up a staging server or a testing server where live code, live product is available, but maybe not to the general public. This is a great way to test very high fidelity versions of your product with live data. You may need developer help for this, but it's probably worth it if you're trying to validate complex procedures like actually purchasing something with a credit card, or for example, registering and creating a user profile, but you don't want this to actually go into the database of your real users. Conversely, developers may need your help during this process. In my experience, user experience designers are kind of on call to be a resource and a reference, to be the person who can pull out the personas, go get the sitemap, pull out and modify or update flow diagrams, depending on what the development team needs. So that was a timeline-based framework for looking at the components of user experience, where you've got a beginning and a middle and an end. That doesn't mean you have to follow this process. It's just a way of trying to understand it. In more modern development methodologies such as Agile and Scrum, rather than going through the timeline one time, you may actually iterate through that multiple times in a much faster design and development process. And that's totally okay too. The next framework we're going to look at has to do with resources, how you might want to carry out user experience when you have not very much money to a deluxe process.